The Tour de France is the pinnacle of professional cycling, and its mountain stages are some of the hardest endurance tests in sport. Every year, riders cross the Pyrenees, climbing roads that break even elite athletes. This year, one of those stages passes right by my home, and the boulders where I spend most of my time climbing. I may not be a pro cyclist, but I've spent years pushing myself in the mountains as a climber. That made me wonder, what happens when a rock climber tries a very different kind of climbing? Today, I'm riding the final 45 kilometers of a real Tour de France mountain stage to find out. And honestly, I'm not sure I can finish. So this is the route I'll be attempting today. The full Tour de France stage starts down in Granollers, Spain, and finishes almost 200 kilometers later right here in the mountain village of Les Angles in the Pyrenees. I will not be doing all 196 kilometers, but I will be riding the final 45 kilometers of the actual Tour de France mountain stage, starting in Puigcerdà, right on the Spanish border. The ride can basically be broken into 3 sections. First, we have about 5 kilometers of flat road leaving Puigcerdà as we head towards the town of Ur. Then the real climbing starts. This is Col du Calvaire, a Category 2 climb that tops out at over 1,800 meters above sea level. For pro cyclists, this probably isn't the hardest climb in the Tour de France. For me, it's up there with one of the hardest endurance challenges I've ever done. After the summit, there's around 20 kilometers of rolling terrain through the Pyrenees before dropping into the Matamala Valley. Then comes the final climb into Les Angles. Officially, the last categorized climb is only 1.7 kilometers at 6.5% gradient, which doesn't sound too bad, except the road has already been climbing for several kilometers before that. And there are a couple of problems with this whole plan. First, this is one of the longest bike rides I've attempted in almost 10 years. Second, I have basically no idea how to fix any mechanical problems on my bike. Flat tire, chain popped, I have no clue. I'm cooked. And third, my nutrition is dialed for climbing, but I have no idea how I'm gonna make it for a really long, multi-hour Tour de France mountain stage. And finally, this is the bike I'll be doing the challenge on. It's a Cannondale CAD 10. No fancy upgrades, no carbon wheels, just me and a bike that's about as old as some of the Tour de France pros. Luckily, Lucy agreed to be my support crew today. If I actually finish the ride, she promised to take me to Chez Antoine, probably one of the best steak restaurants in the entire region. So there's basically only one option. I have to finish. As I rolled out of Puigcerdà heading towards the French border, it was all smiles and good vibes. For now, the roads were flat and the skies were sunny, but very soon I'd find out just what I got myself into.
The one thing that I wasn't expecting today is the weather forecast showed it was going to be 10 degrees and sunny, and we woke up and there was at least 1 centimeter, if not 2 centimeters of snow in the higher elevations where we live. It is brutally cold. I'm wondering that as I go up higher in the mountains, if my heart rate's going to warm up and I'm going to feel good, or if I'm a little bit underprepared with my clothing.
According to the official Tour de France stage profile, the first climb of the day is around 11 kilometers long. However, those of us who live in the region know that the real length is much, much further. The first signs for cyclists indicating an upward slope start appearing in the village of Ur, over 16 kilometers before the summit. 5 kilometers doesn't sound like a big difference, but it's quietly chewing up the legs.
So far, so good. I'm a couple of kilometers into the first climb of the day. Right now, the legs are feeling all right. I've kind of got my fingers crossed that the gentle gradient of this climb is going to allow me to survive, but we got a long way to go. Google estimated that it would take me an hour and a half to do this entire climb and about 3.5 hours to do the entire bike ride. I imagine that the pro cyclists are going to do that in at least half of the time. Now, if you're new to this channel, the main type of rock climbing that I do is called bouldering. Of course, there are a lot of differences between bouldering and pro cycling. The main difference being that bouldering is generally considered a maximal effort sport, whereas cycling is pure endurance. You can probably already tell that I'm breathing really, really hard here on the bike, and it's difficult to talk and ride at the same time going uphill. In bouldering, a climber is generally exerting maximal force and effort for anywhere between 10 seconds to about 1 minute, whereas in cycling, like in the Tour de France, on the big, long mountain stages, the pro cyclist can be on the saddle for anywhere between 4 to 5, even 6 hours at a time.
The weight of each pedal stroke was slowly becoming more noticeable by the time I arrived to the second village along the route, but for now, my legs were able to keep the bike moving. The quiet beauty of traditional French homes nestled along the hillside surrounded by trees and waterfalls were a welcome sight for the eyes, as I couldn't stop thinking about how the difficulty between these two very different sports compares.
Now in bouldering, we have a couple of different grading scales that we use to assign difficulty levels to the rock climbs that we're trying to complete. I think the easiest one to understand is probably the V scale. This scale starts at V0 being your easiest boulder problems, going all the way up to V18, with V18 being currently the world's most difficult boulder problem. Most folks on their very first trip to the rock gym will probably be able to complete a boulder problem that's graded about V0 or V1. Your beginner climbs are anywhere from V0 to about V3. Intermediate climbs from V4 to about V6. Advanced level climbs from about V7 to V9. Elite level problems from V10 to V12. Pro level climbs from V13 to V16. And the upper echelon of bouldering are your problems graded V17 to V18. The hardest boulder problem I've ever completed was given a V14 rating, but I'm consistently doing boulder problems that are graded between about V9 to V12 or V13. A typical week for me would involve usually 4 to 5 days per week of either training for bouldering in the rock gym or bouldering outdoors on real rock. Similarly to how rock climbers use different grading scales to classify the difficulty of the climbs, pro cyclists have a scale also. In the Tour de France, you'll see 5 different categories of climbs, starting from category 4. A category 4 climb will generally be between 1 and 4 kilometers, maybe slightly longer, but it's gonna have a noticeable gradient that's large enough to allow cyclists to make an attack or push the pace so high that their competitors cannot keep up. A category 3 climb will be slightly longer or have a significantly larger gradient. The Tour de France organizers have not published the official categories for this year's Tour de France as of today in mid-May, but using some calculations and some comparisons, we are able to kind of make a guesstimate as to the difficulty levels of the climbs on today's route. If my calculations are correct, today's ride up to Col du Calvaire will fall in a category 2 because of its extreme length. It's 16, almost 17 kilometers long, but its average gradient is anywhere between 3 and 5%. A category 1 climb might actually be shorter in distance than the climb that I'm doing today, but if it is shorter, it's going to have a significantly steeper gradient. We could be talking more than 10%, and that's where the legs are really going to start hurting. Lastly, your oars category or HC climbs. These are absolute beasts of a climb and are typically seen over in the Alps, where the inclines are just so much steeper than they are here in the Pyrenees Mountains.
It's pretty cool to think that in just 2 months' time, the pro cyclists in the Tour de France are gonna come right by here. This is where we do pretty much all of our bouldering multiple times a week. We spend a lot of time here in this forest. There are giant boulders just over behind me. Right now I'm not too hungry, but I feel like
I think you deserve a little treat.
Let's get going.
Hello, hello. I just saw Alex on the first part. It seems like he's doing okay, but this is the easiest part. Now comes, I would say, maybe the hardest part, because it's quite steep, and also it's cold today. We didn't expect that cold, but right now I'm talking, it's snowing. This is why I'm inside the car, because it's cold. It's 5 degrees Celsius, and yeah, let's see how he's dealing with that. That's it for the moment.
Leaving Targasson, I was greeted by the only major flat section of road on the entire climb. I'd be lying if I didn't say that I was starting to doubt the stamina in my legs.
According to my watch, I've been riding for about an hour and a half now. So the heart rate is going hard. Sun over here, snow over there.
My rhythm slowed to a crawl as I passed the welcome sign to the most popular ski station village in the region. A mere 12 kilometers per hour meant I was now moving slower than most runners.
Oh, jeez. My legs are in a world of pain right now.
Rounding the final corner with the summit in sight, I knew a few more moments of suffering was all that separated me from the first major challenge of the day.
I made it. Col du Calvaire, 1,836 meters. That last uphill was a little battle. I'm tired.
How are you feeling? How's your butt doing?
This world of pain is something that we don't experience in bouldering and rock climbing. I'm only halfway through the ride. I still have another 20-25 kilometers. My legs and the back of my legs have been on fire now for at least half an hour, if not an hour, pretty much since we left Puigcerdà. But it's just all just a gentle uphill, and there's just no like respite, even on the gentle flats. You have like a couple of minutes to recover, and then you're just going up again. Anything more than I think what it's been would just absolutely eat me alive.
Wait for the final hill, because I think this one is hard, but the final one looks harder because it's short but very steep.
The Tour de France organizers put that at the finish for a very good reason, and I'm gonna find out why. This is my water bottle. I've only drank like half of this in the 2 hours. I should probably eat something too, even though I'm not hungry. With those endurance sports, it always comes back to bite you later when you're not expect it. That steak is going to taste so much better than any steak I've ever had in my life.
There is snow, and it's still snowing, so I hope it's not too cold.
I picked a tough day for the phrase, "the wife is always right" to be true. The temperatures got so cold on the downhill that my camera completely turned off for the next several kilometers.
In a very unexpected turn of events, my world of suffering and pain has turned from my legs to an unbearable freezing cold on the downhill. But I guess that shouldn't be a huge surprise, because on the really, really big mountain climbs in the Tour de France, you'll see coaches and different team members of the supporting crew win the summits of the big climbs with extra jackets, jerseys, long sleeve jerseys, and things for the riders to put on as they go downhill. Now in rock climbing, we like those cold temperatures. We're often outside, especially in bouldering, when it's 0 degrees, 5 degrees. But it changes a whole lot when you're going downhill at 50, 60 kilometers an hour. One cool fact is I've even seen Tour de France pro cyclists grabbing newspapers to stuff inside their jerseys as they're going down the climbs to serve as like extra insulation. But boy, man, when the sun does come out in the French Pyrenees, it is beautiful. This is one of my favorite villages that we passed through as we're working up to this last mountain summit in Les Angles. Can't ask for much more.
The more time you spend doing outdoor sports like cycling or rock climbing, the more you start to notice weather patterns. Small changes in conditions often play a huge factor in terms of your performance and overall well-being. For now, it was sunny skies crossing over Col de Calvaire and diving down into Matamala Valley, with the final summit lingering in the distance.
Without a doubt, the Tour de France riders are just insane. When you're out bouldering, it's really you against the rock. You're making the decisions, you're controlling what's happening. It's pretty safe, but in cycling, you have a whole lot of other factors. When the guys are doing this in the Tour de France, they're riding in a huge peloton with 100, 200 riders, and one small flick of an elbow, one small turn of a wheel can cause dozens of riders to fall at a time. The consequences of a fall in cycling, like right now, I'm going downhill at 50 kilometers an hour. If I were to fall right now, I'd probably end up in the hospital.
Luckily, that wasn't the case today. The only thing separating me from a delicious steak dinner was the final climb, topped off with an unexpected surprise.
Before I discovered bouldering and rock climbing at the end of college, and I was really into my cycling era, what I really appreciated about cycling was it felt like this way to get out and explore beautiful places in the world. When you're in a car, things go by so quickly, but when you're on a bike, you have a little bit more time to take things in at a slower pace. The moss on the side of the trees, the pine cones on the floor, the flowers starting to bloom in spring. The Tour de France is such an important cultural tradition here in the country, and it's a very special thing for many, many people. When the Tour de France comes through your village or your town, life stops that day for the Tour de France. Everything goes on hold, and the Tour de France really showcases some of the most beautiful parts of this country. So it feels really special that I can share that with you all, wherever you are watching this video, that our region here in the French Pyrenees is just so beautiful. The road's starting to kick up. I'm starting to feel the legs working again. There's only a few kilometers separating me from this steak dinner, but I think it's time to put this camera down and think about making it to the finish.
It starts snowing again. We're almost at the finish line. I think he can do it, but the last hill is gonna kill him.
Off in the distance, the finish line was now shrouded in a cloud of snow, but I wasn't about to let a few flurries dampen my spirits. It was time to put the pedal to the metal and focus on the task ahead.
Made it to Les Angles.
Remember that unexpected surprise I mentioned earlier? Yeah, I was about to find out my rookie mistake.
I thought I had my bike in the smallest gear possible, but I looked down and realized that my front gear was in the higher gear, which it has been for the last several kilometers. Every pedal stroke is definitely starting to feel like I've got lead weights on my feet.
I struggled to keep my mind from going into panic mode after realizing my mistake. My heart rate was already soaring, and I worried if I'd given too much effort before making the final turn, signaling the official start of the Category 3 finish climb.
Feels like I'm literally crawling up this hill.
I think it's suffering a little bit, and it's just the beginning of the last hill. Yeah, come on.
A quick glance down showed that my bike was already in its lowest gear.
I'm just trying not to stop.
Yeah. See you soon.
Okay. I'm really hoping that this is the last curve.
Says every weekend warrior cyclist ever. It was definitely not the last curve.
You did it! Are you alive?
I'm so cooked.
I think someone is gonna be sore tomorrow.
I'm in a level of suffering I haven't been in a long time. As I made that last turn, everything went from type 3 fun to type 4 fun. Do I get a steak dinner now?
Yeah, I think you deserve one.
I couldn't help but feel a small sense of accomplishment as we walked towards Chez Antoine. Had I found a passion outside of rock climbing? For now, I'm not so sure. But riding part of a Tour de France mountain stage had truly put into perspective the incredible athletic ability of a pro cyclist. There were no cheering crowds or yellow jerseys waiting for me at the finish line, but those first bites of fries and steak were the best prize one could ask for.